going on, guys? Thanks for joining me for another tutorial video. Tonight I'm just going to be doing a walkthrough of EZDrummer 2. EZDrummer 2 is a software that has been created by Toontracks, which you might be familiar with also Superior Drummer, Easy Keys, and Easy Mix. So they're just a few of the other plugins that they have created. So just a quick overview of EZDrummer 2. Just by the name you can tell it is going to be a virtual drum plugin that you are going to utilize inside of a DAW. I'm going to walk through it, kind of just show you the general layout of a kit, show you the different options there, how to properly set that kit up inside of your DAW to run multi-channel. Now, running your virtual drum kit multi-channel, I would say, is kind of an important thing that you want to know off the bat right away, especially if you want your drums to sound the best that they can. Essentially, multi-channel is going to be splitting each instrument into its own separate channel. So that way you have a separate channel for your bass drum, snare, toms, overhead, room, etc., etc. That way you can enhance the sound of your drum kit the best in that way. So I'm going to go ahead and I will pull up essentially a song I'm working on, or just files that I've been working on. I'll give you kind of a run through of EZDrummer 2. Alright guys, so as you can see here, I have EZDrummer 2 pulled up inside of my DAW, and this is going to be exactly what it's going to look like here. So they're going to have a virtual drum kit set up, and you're gonna they're going to show it all mic'd up and everything, kind of like what you would in a normal traditional recording sense if you were to go to a studio and record drums there. So starting off, one of the things that EZDrummer 2 does, they certainly give you flexibility with what you'd like to do. If any of you are familiar with EZDrummer 1, you may know, or you may feel, that the drum kit in EZDrummer, the original, was slightly limited. They were a little bit limited as far as what they gave you, as far as options and just customizing the kit, things like that. You could certainly still make the kit sound good, through EQing on your DAW, and compression and whatnot. You can certainly make it sound like a good kit. They just don't give you a ton of options, but you can certainly make do with it. In EZDrummer 2, they did expand the kit and give you more cymbal options. I believe they did add one cymbal, maybe, or maybe they didn't, but I believe they did add more to each kit too. So you can see right here, I'm gonna kind of pull up this snare right here. First thing, you're gonna see an arrow right next to each instrument on the kit, and all that's going to do is that is going to allow you to customize each piece as you see fit. So for instance, we'll open up the snare here, and we'll look at here. See, they give you a few different choices of snares. They show you the different sizes, if it's damped or not. Over here they give you a volume, so you can make the snare louder in the mix of the whole kit, or you can make it quieter. Pitch, you can change the pitch of that as well, which I've messed around with the pitch a little bit, and a lot of times I just keep it right in the center, or maybe just a hair to the left or the right. I don't mess with it too much besides that. Also here they give you just some different options too. You can do like a modern snare list, and they do some different artist snares here. And then they also give you the vintage option, which I tend to go for the Slingerland snare than anything in just about all of my kits, because for me personally, after I EQ the snares and add some compression and whatnot, I think it's got a pretty tight sound, a pretty good sound, something that I like. Everyone's different, obviously. Everyone's gonna like a different snare sound, but yeah, you'll see here that'll be the same thing for each drop down window. So your hi-hat, you're going to have different options for hi-hats, all of that. They also give you the option where you can just select and use like a pre-made kit that they've made on this on this window here. And then something else that I like that they also added this details button right here. This wasn't in EZDrummer 1, I don't believe, but when you open that up, it tells you what basically all of the notes are that go with that instrument. So like currently we're looking at all the different hits you can make with the hi-hat. And if you aren't familiar with virtual drums or MIDI drums, essentially, and I'll pull this over here and kind of show you a section here. So this piece right here, this piece of drums that I'm pulling up, this right here is what virtual drums is going to look like. So it's basically a bunch of blocks, but those blocks are going to correspond to a certain note that on the scale that's been made inside of EZDrummer 2. So for instance, EZDrummer, they typically like their bass drum to be a B0. B0 is more than likely, more often than not, going to be your bass drum for EZDrummer. Every drum plugin may be slightly different. So I know that EZDrummer is going to have a little bit of a different setup note-wise than Slate drums or Superior drums. Though they're all going to have their own note patterns, so that will differ between each plugin. Then we've also got, this would be a snare hit right here. Snare hit is D1, but then also D sharp 1 is also going to be a snare hit. So for instance, if you're doing like a roll, or you do like a flam maybe at some point on the snare, then then you can do that appropriately. Put one note in D1 and the other in D sharp 1. But yes, that is something that you certainly work with and figure out there. So yeah, just going around the kit more, you'll see here, as far as the options that they do, and even see here with the tom, they show you the different notes there. We've got the rim shot, center alternate, and center. Ride cymbal to show you when to hit the bow, the bell, and the edge. So they do a good job of explaining, or at least showing you where each of the notes are on the scale there. So then from there, you can go over and you can, they do have libraries of just different, I believe different beats that you can use. That's what a lot of this is going to be right here. They do have pre-made beats that you can use and you can throw into a song in case you want to use those. But that's not something I've typically ever messed with, just because I've always made my own drum beats. I've never really messed with the library too much, maybe just to kind of poke around and see what things sound like here. But yeah, then over here, they'll show you the time signature that piece will be in, how many bars, what the tempo is going to be for that. And the list is pretty extensive as far as what they offer. And then even up here, you can select genre, what type of drumming, a play style, your power hand, and you can also filter by the time signature. Now this is the next part, and this is kind of the one that I like the most here. So this is going to be your mixer for your whole entire drum kit. As you can see, it's pretty self-explanatory as far as where everything is at. So you're just going right down the line. They've already got everything labeled for you, and so you don't really have to do a whole lot there. You basically just have to memorize it and kind of know where everything's at. But they've got all those labeled for you. And you can go ahead and you can mess with those as you see fit, and they show you what the decibel is that you are, or excuse me, what that channel is going to be coming through as, and so you can mess around with that. They've also got panning up here. This is going to be all of your left and right panning. Down here you're going to have the mic bleed between the snare and the overhead mic. Now from there, let me even just show you. So I'm going to close that out, and we're going to go back down to here, kind of where we've already got these drums. So when you start to actually make your own beats, it's all up to you how you want to do it. There's no limit to the imagination of what you can create. As far as like a drum beat inside of EZDrummer 2. Now, something you will notice is that a lot of times they will have like a preset velocity number that each hit is just going to be assigned at. So, for instance, and by velocity, some of you might not know what that means. So I'll go through that here. So basically, the velocity just means how much attack is on the hit of that particular note. So right here, for instance, we'll take this snare hit that I have right here, this D1. This snare hit is at an 87. So 87 is going to be a little bit below normal for the attack, but the reason why I have that below normal is because of this phrase right here. This is a blast beat that's being played, and the BPM of the song is 200 beats per minute. So I try to make it as realistic as possible, because if you think about it, and if you're a drummer, I'm sure you know that if you're doing a blast beat, especially at that kind of speed, or just a blast beat in general, a lot of times you aren't going to be playing a full strength hit. Whereas if you were just if you just had a snare hit on like the third beat of each measure, you would certainly be hitting those at full strength, because that's just one hit per measure. But as you can see here, in one measure we have 6 snare hits. So to make it sound as realistic as possible, I dropped the velocity down there. Bass drum, a lot of times that is going to stay consistent. So I keep bass drum typically at about 100, 101. Sometimes when you're dialing in drums, or you're putting in the notes, and you're changing the velocity, so basically this would be how you change it. Sometimes it might not hit exactly on 100, or like an even number that you want it to. So you just try to get it as close as possible. With that, cymbals. Cymbal hits are kind of an important thing that I've found out when it comes to virtual drums. I know that sometimes people are tempted to just take the velocity and slam it up to 127. That's as high as you can go. That's the highest velocity. So you've got 0 to 127. And sometimes people will just take their kit, and basically every single note of each segment is at 127. So bass drums at 127, snares at 127, cymbals at 127, everything's at 127. I don't do my kits that way. And again, coming from that realistic factor, 127 is going to be a very hard hit. And I have found just over time that, but at least for me personally, I just don't think it sounds good. It sounds like that someone is just slamming these drums. And it doesn't really sound that fluid, and I just don't think it sounds that good. So that's why I kind of keep my levels where they're at. I try to, at least have the kit again sound as real as possible. Cymbals are a little different. Cymbals sometimes can be hard to dial in. So like the hi-hat hit that we've got here, these are all going to be hi-hats at A#1. You'll see here, this one's at 127. This one's at 101. And then this one is also at 101. And that would be because I have it set up that way, because with the blast beat, being the time signature is 3/4, I have the hi-hat kind of set up that way to kind of play with the groove here. And I'll even just play you a segment here, so you'll be able to hear that hi-hat in exactly when that note is attacking. So let me go ahead and I'll play that here really quick for you. I'll just solo the drums so you can hear that. So yeah, you can kind of hear the groove a little bit as far as what's going on with the hi-hat there. Other cymbals, I don't play that loud. It kind of goes on a per cymbal basis, because like my crash, crashes and splashes, I'm not going to play those at 127, because again, I don't think they sound good at 127. It sounds like someone is just taking their drumstick and smashing that cymbal. It just comes off with a very aggressive tone on the cymbal. It's not smooth, in my opinion. It's got this very angular sound to it. It just kind of cuts through, but in a bad way, if that makes sense. So a lot of times what I'll do with like cymbals, let me even see if I can find one here, but a lot of times cymbals, I'm going to be playing at 112. I usually do the cymbals between 112 to 120. And I feel like that gives it a good blend and a good enough hit to where, again, it does sound natural. It's going to fill in the sound in the song itself, and it's not gonna just cut through and kind of just sound harsh. The only other cymbal that I'll do at max velocity is a ride. So if I'm like, again, if we're doing blast beats, and I'll even play this here too, because this is going to be a blast beat here. And basically there's a transition right before it, as you can see with all the notes there. And you'll see that the cymbal hand changed up here, because the notes right here, all the way through here, this was all hi-hats. Then we did a fill, and now we're going to be on the ride. So I'll play that for you really quick, and I'll let you hear kind of the ride. So yeah, the ride is the only other cymbal that I will play at max velocity, just because it is a very quiet cymbal in the kit. And so I find that with that velocity, you really need to ramp it up to have it even present in the drum kit. And that's anytime playing. That's whether you're doing blast beats, whether you're just playing like a 4/4 beat on it, whatever you're playing, the ride typically needs to be turned up a little bit more, or at least played more aggressively than some of the other cymbals, is what I have found there. Now, also the drum kit here, as you can see really quickly, I'll show you towards the bottom, this drum kit has been fully EQ'd as well. So what you're hearing, this has been the EQ'd drum kit. That's not what it's going to sound like out of the box or right outside of EZDrummer. You know, I've just found that the best way for me to write music and feel confident with what I'm writing is before I even put down a single note, I will throw in my presets. So you see here, I've got bass drum preset. We've got a snare top EQ, snare bottom EQ. Don't have anything on the hi-hat. And we've got toms. Nothing on the overhead, nothing on the room. And then also throw a limiter on the whole kit itself. So the last thing I want to show you here is I just want to do it really briefly and just show you how to set up multi-channel for the whole entire kit. So the thing with EZDrummer is that the kit won't be set up for multi-channel right outside of the box. That is something that you will have to do. You'll have to actually manually set that up. I believe there are some DAWs, and I'm not sure which ones they are off the top of my head, but sometimes I believe they do automatically populate for you. But with Ableton, the DAW that I use, I have to do it manually. So essentially what to do, the easiest way to get that all set up is you'll go to your mixer, you know, on whichever kind of drum kit that you have, and you'll go to the very first channel, or basically whichever channel you want, and you'll pull that out. It'll ask you what output you want to have that go to, you know, in case you want to get really specific and you know, put different things at different channels like that. Otherwise, if you just want the plugin to do it for you, you can go down here and you can select multi-channel. And what that's going to do is that will essentially just put each item in its own channel. So you're going to get the rack toms and the floor tom. Those are the items that are typically going to be in their own channel. And then, you know, overhead, ambience, you know, everything else is going to have its own channel. So then from there, once you have that set up, actually in the plugin itself, then you can go into your DAW and set it up so it actually translates that way over to your recordings. So what I'll do here, this first track, this is going to be a MIDI track. This one right here, this is basically the track that you open up your plugin in, and that's why it says EZDrummer right there, even though this is technically the bass drum channel is going to be right there. Every channel after that is going to be an audio track. So for setting up a multi-channel kit, you only need one MIDI track, and then you need to set up the rest as audio tracks. From there, what you'll do, there should be some kind of bus option essentially for that track, allowing you to select where you want audio to come into that track from. So from here we see, you know, all of these are set up for number 2 EZDrummer, so the MIDI track. So we've got that, all the audio is being split to each of those channels. So then that way, whenever a note is played of that appropriate channel, it'll go to the correct channel on our mixer here. And then from there, you need to tell it which channel to pull that audio from. So we've got, you know, EZDrummer 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 being all the toms. As you can see, you don't need to make 3 individual channels for each tom. You just need to make 1 there, and then 6 and 7. And then also set the monitoring for in, so that way, you know, you can actually hear those drums come through. And then that would be that's the best way that you can unlock the sound of your virtual drum kit. there have been times where I have set up the kit for a song and I've EQ'd everything. You know, I've thrown my EQs on all of these tracks, but it still doesn't sound good. And then I go back and I realize, oh, I didn't set it to multi-channel, and I do that, and then finally everything goes to their own channel, and the drums are sounding crisp and just the way I like them. So that would be the end of the EZDrummer 2 tutorial, guys. I appreciate you for watching. If you have any questions regarding TuneTrack, EZDrummer, anything like that, feel free to leave them in the comments. Please feel free to subscribe as well to the channel, so that way you can stay up to date on all the videos that I'm putting out, whether it's tutorials or maybe some playthroughs and just other videos that I'm going to be making on the channel. Again, that wraps it up. I'll be including some links too in the details, just to navigate your way over to the TuneTrack website for EZDrummer. One last thing too with that is that EZDrummer 2, it is a very budget friendly plugin, and it's going to be sitting at $199 for the price. So at $200 gets you the EZDrummer 2 plugin for that, and I believe they allow you to use up to three computers at a time. And that's something you can always go through. If you go to TuneTrack and you end up buying it, then they got a lot of different things that you can get for them, different kits, different presets, all of that different jazz. So I appreciate you guys for watching tonight, and we'll see you later.